Hi, I'm going to make a little drawing. I'm using this digital color printing paper. It's by Clairefontaine, I believe. Yeah. And I actually like this paper. Using this 2mm mechanical pencil with graphite. And I want to have a half of such a paper, so I'm going to fold it first and more or less half a page. So I put this away for next time when I'm using this piece of paper. And this is a photograph from Pixabay. A girl's face, so shall I do it horizontally or vertical, this paper? I think I like the horizontal option. I taped everything to the wood and I'm going to zoom a little in. Zoom in a little. And yeah, it's sharp. Here on the left I will add the image in the video. And I just want to start freestyle. Just a hint of the areas that are darker. The eyes, also the nose, the mouth. And I zoom out a little bit. And yeah, I think it just fits the paper. And as I go along, I will add more precise accentuations. So I just add scratches. And maybe you see the drawing, her face slowly forming. And I just keep scratching. And I want to finish this whole drawing in the same vein as I started it, with the same kind of scribbling. So how do you call this? And I try to put something of the movements of her hair in when I'm drawing. And let's see if I can add some detail while keeping this kind of strange scribble-like movements in the drawing. And I try to accentuate a little bit here and there. And get the line of her face right. And I try to get some more expression in the eyes. And now I try to add some lighter scribblings, so I don't put too much pressure now on the pencil. And I'm looking at the tonal values now, so with this lighter touch I'm looking for tonal values in her cheeks. And when you look at the photo, you can see that her cheeks, let's say especially her nose, and this here is the lightest area, and this is a bit darker. So I try to get that into my drawing as well. So I leave these light and I try to make everything else a little bit darker. And let's work a bit on the outline of her face. It can be better. And now I want her eyebrows a little more accentuated. Here we can have some accentuations. This side of her nose a bit darker. And I want to work a little bit more on her eyes now. And I'm not pleased with this eye here. And let me take a look. This eye, this is too dark here. And I can be proud and say, oh, I don't want to. I just take an eraser pencil and I'm trying to correct this eye because this is not good. You know, it's nice to make such a drawing and try to make it wonderful and perfect in one go, and it's but I make mistakes too, and sometimes we just have to work on them. And let's just use this in an expressive way, because now I've started anyway with this eraser pencil. So I'm making an even bigger mess of my drawing. But that's the point of this style. We just make a mess of things and then we see if we can make a nice end result out of it. And this should be a little bit lower. And it's just like, oh wait, I should clean this table, it's terrible. There was some dirt on the table. Maybe something I did before, but I usually draw on pencil sketch pads, and this is just taped on the table itself, so this was the first time I actually had to deal with that. And let's get those lips a little more detailed. And slowly her face is getting a bit like on the picture. And how do you create an image with this kind of hatchings or scribblings? Well, it works just like hatchings, and think of it as in the larger picture. I mean, you use a certain tonal value in a certain area, and so it's nice to have something else that you can use instead of just hatchings and cross hatchings. Nothing wrong with those, because that's nice too, but you can also use alternative ways to scribble to make things darker and to add tonal value. I think for the composition it's nice to make this dark and dynamic with hair. And here it needs some more accentuation. Oops, a little bit of eraser stuff there. And slowly you can see that the drawing is forming. And at first I didn't want to use that eraser pencil, but I got the eyes wrong. It happens to me as well, and well, I think, well, if I use an eraser pencil, I can correct that, why not? And I thought it was interesting to use it in other areas as well. So here you can see that it's quite useful. Maybe it's because of the smooth paper that this is possible. Not sure if you can do this on a rough grained paper. I should try that. If you do this. Alright. So I'm going to use this more often in several drawings, but it's nice to use this as well. The eraser pencil. And now I want to work towards a more finished drawing. And I'm looking at her jawline, and I just take this. It needs some accentuations and shadow here and there. This is not totally well. I should work on this outline a bit here. I'm changing the outline a bit here, as you can see. And slowly I'm reaching a point that I think, well, this drawing is reaching its end. But I want to make this area dark, so I can isolate her face a little bit. And I choose to have a dominant horizontal direction in the background here. So there is this very scribbly area in her face and this more, let's say, organized background there. And now I'm actually quite organized, enhancing these dark areas. I'm not really scribbling here, so, but I try to keep the scribble feature alive. So sometimes you just do something in the end to make the drawing work better, but I don't want to have it lose its scribbly character, so to speak. So I'm still scribbling now. And let's do this here as well. It's a bit of a mess, but I like it that way. I don't really indicate her hand here because it would be too abstract. You would not really recognize that hand even if I try to indicate it. Let's work on some of the details. And while I work on the details, I try to keep that scribbly character in my hatchings, or those are not hatchings but scribbles. But what I do to make it darker, so to speak. Here's some accentuations. And I'm reaching a point now that I think, well, I shouldn't do too much about this anymore, because at a certain point you can overwork it, make it overwrought, or what's the expression that it comes. I mean, I want to avoid that it becomes heavy-handed. So let me take a look at some details. Look at her mouth, her nose, and her eyes. I'm just systematically looking at some features of her face, and I look at the tonal values. This can be a little bit darker. So these two areas, and this should be the lightest, but the rest should be a bit darker. And it should be darker as well here. So I want this to be a bit darker so the face lights up a bit against this darkness. So that's what I'm going to do now. Make this a little bit darker here. And I want this background a bit darker as well. And I try to keep it dynamic. I try to keep the pace going. See if I can make this a little bit darker. And I think I'm reaching the point, well, the light is not perfect, but I'm reaching the point that I think, well, it's a nice dynamic drawing. It's a quick sketch, but I like this approach. And well. And I think I leave it at this because if I go further, I think it won't be a better drawing. But I like it as it is now. Otherwise, I stop now. Thank you for watching. Thank you.